track cards. Maybe a couple people drift in here a few minutes late. For those of you who don't already know Mr. and Mrs. Langle, they're in here. This is what they do for a living. And I asked for these guys to be able to come in here and give you guys some of their knowledge to be able to help prepare you guys for the upcoming season or for whatever other athletic challenges you guys have going forward. The nutrition and everything like that that they're going to give you guys today applies to everything. All right, your preparation, your healing, your recovery, all that kind of stuff. So please, obviously, pay them the respect that is due, but also take advantage of the knowledge that they're giving you, because it's only going to make you guys better in the long run. All right, a lot of the deficiencies that we had as a group, as a soccer program last year, we could have been able to prevent, and we applied some of the knowledge that they're going to give you guys today. So please take advantage of it. And with that, Mr. and Mrs. Langle, thank you guys.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ray Langle, and Luke and Anna are my kids. And just a little bit about myself, a disclaimer, I did not play soccer in high school. I did play a little bit as an adult, and it absolutely wiped me out. It was an exhausting sport. I did play football, baseball, and basketball, and I wrestled for a little bit. After high school, I went to Ohio State, got a degree in exercise physiology, worked as a personal trainer for a number of years. So I do have that exercise background. And then I went back to school, have a master's degree in nursing, and I work in the correctional institution up here in Lorain. We're in Grafton, taking care of some of our finest citizens. So, with that being said, I kind of want to start off talking a little bit about how much athletes run.
Sorry.
All right, so in basketball, Jimmy Butler, he's a yard for the Chicago Bulls. He runs on average 2.72 miles per game. In football, the most active players, the wide receivers and cornerbacks, run about 1.25 miles a game. And in tennis, an elite tennis player will run 2 miles a game. So of all the sports that run, not up here, which sport do you think runs the least? Zach?
I already read the notes. Baseball.
Oh, you can cheat. All right, don't look at your things.
Zach. I do that too much.
So baseball players, and this has nothing to do with soccer, but I'm just kind of bringing up a point here in soccer. So soccer players don't even run, or baseball players don't even run a tenth of a mile during a game. All right. So without cheating, what sport runs the most?
Soccer!
Not soccer.
World Cup. Michael Bradley, almost 8 miles a game. The rest of the midfielders, 7 miles a game. And the starting forwards and defenders run about 6 miles a game. So that's a lot of running. You can see that's tremendously much more running than anybody else in any other sport does. So why do I bring all that up? Soccer's a unique sport, and you guys have a responsibility to eat right, to train right, to prevent injury, more than any other athlete out there. So take pride in that as soccer players, that you guys really, really have to be prepared and take your training and your nutrition very seriously. So what should the high school athlete be doing? Conditioning, and we're going to go through all these points here a little bit. Conditioning, and when you condition, not only to improve your ability to train and to be a good soccer player, but also to prevent injury. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Eating well, hydrating to maximize performance, and Liz is going to talk some about that. And I'm actually going to talk about sleeping a little bit, which tends to be a problem in teenagers, and the research will show that. And then lastly, I'm going to finish off with talking about some shortcuts. So are there any supplements you can take that's going to make your training, make your soccer performance better? So conditioning. Now, the approach I'm going to take to conditioning, there's a handout there that's called the FIFA 11 Plus. This is just one training. I'm not going to go through the details of this training. You can read through it. If you want to implement it into your conditioning, that's fine. But the reason I bring it up is because the way I approached this presentation is I looked at research. There's actually scientists whose job is to study soccer players and determine what's the best way to train for soccer, what's the best way to prevent injury. And this tool right here has been studied tremendously, mainly in Europe, but some in the United States as well. Without boring you with the details here, I know you guys can read it all, but it essentially involves some high legs, running, jumping, doing some planking, some strength training, some squatting, some jumping, and then a handful of other exercises. Now, I'm not saying this is the only technique that's gonna help. You know, coach is obviously gonna have, you know, how he wants you guys to do it, but some of these things are very important to maximize performance. It's 15 drills and exercises. It takes 20 minutes to complete this if done properly. It involves core stabilization, it strengthens the muscles, and it actually improves balance. So people who do this have balance better. So for example, if you get hit and you have to land and you have better balance, you're gonna be less likely to roll an ankle. So interesting studies show that people who do this training 2 times a week, year-round, will reduce their injury rate by 30 to 70%. That's pretty significant. Doesn't guarantee you're not gonna get an injury, but you can significantly reduce your injury rate by just doing this program twice a week, all year round. All right, now when I was in school, we always learned stretching. Stretching is the most important thing. And I was looking at a lot of studies, and this FIFA program is way better at reducing injury rates than just plain stretching. Now, stretching is helpful, and it's especially helpful for folks who are tight. So if you stand up and try to touch your toes and you have very tight hamstrings, people who stretch, who are very tight, have significant reductions in injuries with stretching. But otherwise, something like the FIFA program is more important than just stretching. But the other thing is, stretching does not hinder performance either, so I encourage stretching along with doing something like this. Strength training. Now, I mean, I don't know if you guys are going to have any formal strength training, but strength training and studies have shown to significantly help soccer. Individuals who strength train 2 to 3 sessions per week for 12 weeks reduce injury rates 75%. So getting involved in some sort of strength training is important. In addition to that, people who do strength training, squats, deadlifts, these types of exercises, increase sprint times and improve their jumping ability. And this was a big study done, actually just released this year. And these studies are all looking at soccer players, okay? So this is not just everybody, this is soccer players in particular. So when you train, you know, I probably shouldn't call my kids out here too much, but after the season, don't listen, Coach George. Sometimes they sit on their can after the season and don't do anything for a while. Well, studies show us that after 2 weeks of soccer season being over, you significantly lose strength, you lose sprinting ability, you lose reduction in muscle power, and you reduce endurance. So it's really important to train pretty much year-round. You can take a week off here and there, and I know a lot of you guys play club soccer, and that's great. But for those of you who don't, it's important to do some sort of soccer-specific training year-round in order, so you don't want to come into the season July 1st and go, oh, I think I'm going to start training now. You're going to be behind the 8 ball and you're going to be in big trouble. So year-round training is important. Now we're going to switch to the season here a little bit, and recovery. You know, soccer games are demanding. You know, the World Cup soccer players run 7 miles a game, 8 miles a game. That's a lot of training. That's a lot of running. I know in high school you're probably not running quite that much, but nonetheless it's very demanding. And if you don't recover properly, you're going to have a lot of problems. You're not going to perform well. You're going to increase your risk of injury. So how to recover is a very important thing that you guys need to take responsibility for yourself to do. What are some things that that contribute to poor recovery? And this is a lot what Liz is going to talk about. Dehydration. You're not hydrating properly. That's going to make you not recover well. Not getting enough carbohydrates in your diet. That will make your muscles not be able to recover well. Muscle damage. Obviously, if you're running, you're jumping, you're moving, you're going to put a lot of damage, a lot of strain on the muscles. And, you know, if you're not eating right, you're not resting right, you're not going to recover properly. And then mental fatigue, because it's exhausting. There was a study of about 16,000 people done in Europe, and these are all soccer players. It ranged from high school kids to semi-pro to pro athletes. 16,000 people, and they found 3 things that enhanced recovery. 1, nutrition and hydration was the #1 thing you can do, and that's what the bulk of our talk is going to be about. If you eat and drink right after games and during the season, your recovery is going to be optimal. The other 2 things that they found is cold water immersion. Now, I'm pretty sure Ridgewood doesn't have a tank, do we? No. But, you know, professional athletes do that all the time. You know, LeBron James is always in the tank after the game, and that helps recovery. It's just a point. I guess there's not much you probably can do about it unless you want to fill up your bathtub with ice water and hop in there after the games. And then sleeping. Sleeping is the other thing that they really found makes a big difference in recovery. And this is just a point I debated deleting this slide, but a lot of things they found did not help with recovery. Things like active recovery. So getting up the next morning, going for a little jog, does not help recovery. Stretching, surprisingly, did not enhance recovery. Those compression garments, does anybody wear those where you kind of get the stockings on the legs to try to get rid of all the bad blood? I don't know, are they popular anymore? Does anybody do that? No? Okay. Well, they were big years ago, I guess. They're not important. Massage is not helpful. So you can get a massage, you may feel good, but it's not going to help you recover. All right. So sleeping. And this is a big problem with teenagers, I know. At least my teenagers. You're playing games at night, you're tired, you're playing games at night, you're stimulated, you try to get to bed at night, and it's hard to go to sleep. The other thing that kind of inhibits sleep during the season is doing homework close to bed. So if you have a game, my strong recommendation is do your homework before the game. Do not come back from your game and do your homework after the game, because that's too much mind stimulation, too much physical stimulation, your sleep's going to be impaired. And if you're not sleeping well, you're significantly reducing your risk of recovery. Other things that affect sleep, caffeine before bed. Most studies say you shouldn't drink caffeine, and I'll get to caffeine here a little bit more, probably after noon. And daytime napping. I don't know how many people nap. Both my kids nap constantly. It is not a good thing to do because it screws up your whole rhythm and it makes it hard to sleep at night, and it can really impair performance. So getting to bed at the same time every night, getting up at the same time every morning, especially during the season, is very important. All right, sleep deprivation, I kind of mentioned this already. It impairs your ability to get glycogen into your muscle, which is carbohydrates in the muscle. It impairs your ability to repair, and it reduces concentration. So not only will it screw up your soccer, it will screw up your school. So there's a whole bunch of things people recommend to promote good sleep, and I think I mentioned most of these already. Consistent sleeping pattern. Try to get to bed the same time every night, get up in the morning the same time, even on the weekends. I know that's hard, I know you want to go off and goof off with your buddies on the weekends, but during the season, if you really want to be dedicated and really want to be serious, you should really try to get to bed at the same time every night, get up reasonably early in the morning on Saturday and Sunday. Active daytime behaviors, I don't think the soccer players will have any issues with that. Staying active, running, moving. And there is some thought that if you're a little dehydrated before bed, if you don't have the nutrients up, that you won't sleep well. So consuming a high electrolyte carbohydrate beverage like a Gatorade or something, or some milk right before sleep can help get everything back to normal and really help you recover better. All right, shortcuts. So supplements. Coach George asked me to talk a little bit about what supplements might be helpful, or is there anything that's helpful? I don't know how many of you all use supplements, but it's actually a study showed that 35% of middle school and high school athletes do use some sort of supplement. And I did mention steroids in here, and I don't know how prevalent it is now, but this study suggests that about 5% of high school athletes use steroids. And they, from a health perspective, that's horrible for you. I mean, one, it's illegal, you can end up in jail. Come visit me if you want. But also it does bad things to your heart, your liver, your kidneys. It's just bad news. So if anybody's thinking about it, it enhances performance minimally, and it's very dangerous. And actually, some of the supplements, you got to be careful with supplements you get, because there's a supplement called C-Chlor C4, and it's actually banned in the NFL because they have so many bad substances. But you and I can go to GNC right now and buy the thing. So, all right. Well, why would people use supplements? Well, they want to gain weight. This is probably more of a football thing. Get mass, get big, get strong. Reduce body fat, have more energy. Now, I was reading all the research studies, and there really are 4 supplements that have proven to be somewhat effective. Okay. Protein, BCAA stands for branched chain amino acids, beta-alanine, and creatine. The first 3 up there you can buy in supplement form, and I priced these out, and they're pretty expensive. And quite honestly, all of those things are in foods. If you eat a healthy diet, you do not need to buy these supplements. If you're an individual who eats horribly, eats McDonald's every day, eats French fries, eats chips, possibly these supplements may be helpful. But eating a balanced diet is better and cheaper for you than getting these supplements. Creatine was the other one that showed some positive research, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Now this was something I saw, fat burners. I don't know how many of you heard of or seen fat burners, but I strongly discourage that. It's probably nothing that a soccer player would get any benefit from in the first place. Basically, it thins you out a little bit. And the reason I bring this up is because there's two individuals, two athletes who used these while they were training. Steve Belcher is a pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies, I believe, and Corey Stringer was a lineman for Ohio State and Minnesota Vikings. Both of them died from taking these things. Because what these supplements do is they stimulate your metabolism. They get your body heat going so high that your body cannot dissipate the heat. And they had, when Corey Stringer died, he had an internal temperature of 109 degrees. Normal temperature is 98.6, so he died. So I strongly discourage you not to use fat burners at all, but in addition, definitely not when you're training, because it's potentially deadly. The fat burners that are out there now are a little safer than they were back then. Nonetheless, highly discouraged.
Great, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in. Boys, you already know this, we discussed it. Fat burners are not an option for you. Ladies, I don't know what Coach Iman has got going on. I'm not gonna step in and say that it is not an option for you fellas. You are not taking that. I am your fat burner. Sorry.
No, perfect. Reinforce my point, thank you. But yeah, in addition to death, which is bad enough in its own, it can cause heart attacks, it can cause strokes, it can increase your blood pressure, it can give you goofy heart rhythms. So a lot of reasons why not to take it. In addition, this is just kind of a transition point here, many of them contain caffeine. And if you read some of the studies do show that caffeine might help a little bit in some sports, in some situations. In addition, I'm sure we've all heard, mom wants a cup of coffee in the morning to get things going. So there's that claim there too. What's the research show? Now, all the research in caffeine has basically been done in adults. And in adults, they find in adult soccer players, there actually is some benefit to drinking caffeine, or eating caffeine, consuming caffeine prior to a game. And for adults, they say up to 400 milligrams of caffeine considered to be safe. Developing teams. The American Medical Association, which is the association that looks at, that gives guidelines to physicians, doctors, and the healthcare system, say no more than 100 milligrams of caffeine a day is safe. Because basically it stunts growth, it impairs brain development, and it can affect sleep much more in the younger brain. Some of the other negative side effects, again, are looking at heart issues, give you irregular heart rhythm, give you palpitations, increases the blood pressure, it stunts growth, causes abnormal brain development, can get you anxious, nervous, make you not sleep well, can even cause liver damage, kidney failure, respiratory disorders, and seizures. But probably the most dangerous thing with caffeine is, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Logan Steiner kid from the range who was taking the caffeine powder. And this caffeine powder, I don't even know if you can get it anymore, but it is intensely concentrated caffeine. 1/16 of a teaspoon is 200 milligrams. And he just overdid it, and he died. You're not going to die from drinking a cup of coffee, but you could potentially die from this. I think I touched on this a little bit. In adults, small amounts or moderate amounts of caffeine might help the adult soccer player. But they've done the same studies in kids under the age of 20. They've found no benefit from caffeine consumption at that age. So what has caffeine in it? So remember, the guideline if you're under 18 is less than 100 milligrams of caffeine. So a cup of coffee, you take 1 cup of coffee, you're already over the limit that the American Medical Association sets for. Once you're 18, I guess you can drink more than that. Some other things, Mountain Dew's the most intense pot with 70 milligrams. Then you Pepsi and Coke have a little bit less. So from a caffeine perspective, having a Pepsi a day or a Coke a day is probably reasonable. There may be some other health reasons why you would not want to do that, but from a caffeine perspective, it's safe. Energy drinks, very popular item. Anybody drink energy drinks in here? Anybody gonna admit it? Okay, I know a lot of teenagers do. They're very popular amongst my prisoners too. And if you look at like a Monster or a Rockstar, it's 160 milligrams of caffeine in that. Just that one can alone is more than what the American Medical Association recommends for kids. So, my recommendation based on that is you should not be drinking Monsters. Oh, 5-hour energy drinks too. Those little shots, 215 milligrams of caffeine in that. Twice as much as you need. Now, in addition, there was a study, and this was not done on soccer players, this was done on basketball players, where they looked at these energy drinks, and there's a lot of different chemicals in energy drinks in addition to caffeine. I can't even read half of those things. But they haven't been studied real well. So we really don't know what kind of effect they're gonna have. But the one study they did find was that individuals before a basketball game drank an energy drink to see what their performance was. And about 30% of them had a crash. There's a substance called taurine in there, which is a chemical, and it basically caused their body to give a little push, and then they just crash down, and they really have poor performance at the end of the game. So that's just another thought to think, do not take these energy drinks as kind of a pre-game drink. Very bad idea. All right, and then creatine. Now, I don't know, creatine's been around since I've been in high school, so it's kind of a long-standing thing, and there is some benefit to it in some situations, but not so much in soccer. I'm going to get to that in a second. It's basically made in the liver, it's made in the body, and you can also get it in food. And again, the short-term and long-term effects have not been studied in kids. It's most effective in like lifters, power lifters, sprinters, that type of thing. It's not so effective in endurance athletes. There's been no evidence that it helps endurance athletes at all. Endurance athletes, runners, joggers, swimmers, that type of thing. And it also has multiple side effects. Weight gain, diarrhea, abdominal pain, also cramping and kidney problems. Now, I took this in my 20s for a while, and I'm going to tell you, I woke up in the middle of the night with the most horrific leg cramps in the world. So, when you take a substance in your body that's not from food, you're risking a lot of side effects too. So always keep that in mind. Now, the American College of Sports Medicine, which is a big national guru sports medicine organization, makes the statement, a very blunt statement, people under 18 should not use creatine. But does it work? As I said, it does help in some, like power lifters, for example. Yes, it is effective. Might be effective in sprinters, someone who's running a 100-yard dash. But the question you guys are probably most interested in is, does it help in soccer? And there actually was a study that showed it does help a little bit in some aspects of soccer. They basically did the study where they gave some people creatine, some people did not get the creatine. And the people who got the creatine had a slightly improved sprinting time. It helped maintain lower leg power so they could continue to kick hard at the end of the game. And they had this dribble test time improved. But there was no changes in their overall endurance. But the interesting thing about the study is they found that the people who actually, only people who got the benefits were the people who were not eating the proper amount of creatine in their diet. So if you're not eating meats, you're not eating fish, you're not eating beef, you're not eating chicken, you're likely to be deficient in this, and you're likely to benefit from creatine. So my recommendation, based on all the side effects and all the recommendations from the big organizations, is eat the right way and don't use creatine. All right. And also there is some suggestion that as kids use creatine, when I say kids, I mean teenagers, they actually deplete their body's ability to make creatine in the future. So using it now can actually lead to some significant problems in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. All right. So will supplements help make me a better athlete? A few supplements may help a little bit in some sports, but in my opinion, and I think in Liz's opinion, the best bet is to eat a healthy diet and get what you need from the diet and not worry about supplements. These supplements are laced with side effects. You're not going to get horrible muscle cramps from eating a chicken. But believe me, these cramps from creatine are no fun. they're not regulated. So if you get a bottle of creatine, let's say for example, it says it's got 5 grams of creatine in it, it may have 1 gram, it may have no creatine, it may have 10 grams of creatine. Nobody regulates supplements. So when you go to Walmart and get a supplement, you don't know what's in it really. You know, when you get a drug prescribed to you by a doctor, the government regulates what is in that drug. In athletes, they do not regulate, or in supplements, they do not regulate. Again, there's limited studies in people under 18, and there actually has been instances, people using supplements, finding things in the supplement that shouldn't be there. In fact, there was one college that had 2 players banned because they had marijuana in their blood, and they swore up and down they never did any marijuana, and sure enough, it was found in the supplement. Nobody regulates it. All right, so this is kind of the end of my part here. Just kind of a summary, a few points that I think are important. This training year-round is important. And just start July 15th. You know, something like the FIFA 11 program, again, Coach Jordan is going to be your resource here, but that's just something that's been well studied. Some of the things in there will really help you, maximize your performance. Strength training should be considered. Learning how to sleep well, especially during the season. Getting that sleep during the season to help you recover is critical. Don't use supplements, and eat and hydrate well. And that's where she's going to take over.
Can you guys see if I stand over here, or can you even see this board, or no? Can you see it? No, okay.
Slide up.
So
Grab your chairs and go up here.
I'll stand over here. I can just,
I think we can
would that be better, like if I stood over here? Okay, well, my name is Liz Langle, and I'm the other half. And some of you know me as Coach Liz. You see me on the sidelines years back. Wait, let me get to this page. I'm excited to talk to you guys today because I've walked in your shoes. I used to play soccer since I was 5 years old, and I kind of quit playing a couple years ago, not because I don't want to. I know, I'm on a list to play, but I don't have time. If it was a Friday night, I could play. But I played basketball starting in 4th grade, and I played up through high school, all through high school. I ran track, and my last year of high school, I decided I wanted to play softball because I was done with track, and I thought softball would be fun, and it was awesome. So what was awesome about my athletic career is that I became interested in nutrition, probably because of it, and I became a registered dietitian. I went to Ohio State, and I got my degree there. And then my first job was at the University of Northern Iowa, where I'm sure you saw them play basketball, the Panthers. I was very excited about it. And I worked at a college dorm, and I actually worked with the football team and the swimming team, and I did some athletics there, or nutrition for them. So that was cool, and I got to play some soccer there, and that was fun. But I haven't done sports nutrition in a long time, so it was fun to go back and do some studying on this. But Ray and I actually has started a new sport, and we've been running for 3 years. So we just finished our 3rd half marathon on Sunday. So I have been able to practice a lot of these things daily in when I'm training. So because running is an endurance sport, hopefully that I can give you some ideas on how to eat better during your soccer training. So that's my bio. The one thing that I want to tell you, I can't make you put the right things in your body. I can't give you a perfect formula of what to eat. I can just give you a baseline of ideas of how to start eating right. And I think it's really good that we're starting to talk about this now, because it's good if you start practicing good nutrition now. And I am available for you guys after I give you all this information. I'm going to give you my phone number if you want to text me if you have any questions, because everyone eats differently. Everyone's got a different body type. Your moms make different foods. I mean, everyone eats differently. So I'm gonna give you some tools that you can use to start, you know, documenting what you're eating and seeing how you're doing. And if you have any questions, feel free to call me. Does everyone have a pen? Let me give you my number, okay? It's 216-337-9735. And if there's anything personal you wanna, you know, if you don't wanna ask questions here, but maybe you wanna ask me questions later, or if you run into some difficulties, let me know. But today you're gonna start now in paying attention to what you put into your mouth. So that when we get into soccer season, you can start your training. Yes?
Can you repeat your number?
216-337-9735. Okay? And so, your phones, how many people have a phone? Okay, there's an app that I want you to download, okay?
Right now.
It is my,
They're not on Wi-Fi.
well, you don't have to do it now, but write it down, and you can do it when you get home. It's called MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal. And it's got a little guy like that. And when you get home, I want you guys, this is gonna be your food journal, okay? And I want you to start recording your food. You gotta play with it. I know you guys can pick up apps and gadgets right away, but I want you to start playing with it. You can put in your height, you can put in your weight and your age, and it'll come up with a calorie amount of how much you should have for a day. And I'll go through all that in my presentation. But, and then you can document your food every day, and then it gives you, at the end of the day, it gives you like how many calories you got from carbohydrate, protein, fat, fluid. You know, you can document your fluid in there based on what your needs are. And this is going to be a really important tool for you to refer back to, okay, when you need to. Because I don't know about you, but how many times have you guys been at a soccer game and you're like, oh my gosh, I felt like crap. Yeah, I felt like crap, that was a terrible game, I'm out of energy, what did I do? Well, when you have this log, you can look back and say, you know, maybe I could do this better, maybe I could do that better. But this will give you an idea of how your body runs and what works best for you. Okay, so I encourage everyone to download that when they get home and use it every day, okay, starting now. And your parents, they don't know what in the world to feed you, okay? So, this is what I want you to do. I want you to think about some foods after we go through all this. I want you to think about some foods that you can talk to your parents about what you want to eat. I went to the store the other day, I was at Mark's, and I texted Anna, and I was like, and I'm going to throw Anna under the bus because she's in softball, so. You know, I texted Anna because I'm a mom, I shop, and you know, your parents shop for you, and they want to know what you want to eat, okay? So I'm like, I'm here, I'm ready to, you know, I want to make dinners, healthy dinners. What do you guys want to eat, you know? And I texted her, and she texted me back, and she's like, how about Oreos, Cheez-Its, Goldfish, Doritos, chocolate, some pop, and Ho-Hos, and then, wait for it, oh, and don't forget the Twinkies. I'm like, really? I can't work with that, you know? And obviously I didn't text her back. I was just sitting in remarks like, are you kidding me? And then she wrote back like, no, really, I like the Chinese stuff and the stir fry, and it's like, you know, she gave me some ideas. And that's great. I mean, your parents want to feed you right. And when you go to them, and when we talk about all these different ideas for you to eat that are healthy options, you know, talk to your parents about it and come up with a plan. You know, why don't we make this, why don't we make that? So we're gonna go through that. You guys are old enough too. I know YouTube, I know you guys are on that YouTube all the time. You can help your parents cook, you can prepare some things, you can pack your own lunches, right? How many people pack their own lunches? Very good. How many don't pack lunches at all? How many don't buy or pack lunches?
We
See,
go home.
exactly.
Yeah, I just go home and make. Yeah, we go home.
I go home. Okay, so you do eat lunch, but. Okay, but first we're going to talk about adequate hydration. It is essential for optimal athletic performance. Okay, this is something that you need to take big thought on. An athlete can lose up to 2.2 pounds of water per hour, and this is based on a really hot day. But you know, you're going to be doing a lot of your big time training in the summer. So definitely making sure you don't leave the house without making sure you have enough fluid is essential. And I, you know, you guys might not be like my kids, but you know, we've got a very busy family, and every once in a while it drives me crazy when we get to a soccer game and my kids are like, I forgot my water bottle. I mean, it's like they're not even thinking about they need to be hydrated, you know? So this is up to you, this is on you. You guys aren't kids anymore. You guys need to think about what you're putting in your sports bag and how you're keeping yourself hydrated. 2.2 pounds of water per hour is 2% of a 110-pound athlete and 1% of a larger athlete. So at 1%, thirst-stimulated performance declines. So even at as little as 1% dehydration, your performance declines. 2%, it hinders performance, 3% worsening, 4% cut like 20 to 30%, and 5% we're looking like you're spaced out, feeling coma type. You know, that's when you're really gonna be in trouble. So water's important. These are the symptoms of dehydration, and I bet you if you look at this, you've probably had some of those feelings on the field before. Have anyone had noticeable thirst? If you're thirsty, then you're dehydrated. Okay, so as soon as you start to feel thirsty, then you're already dehydrated. Okay, so we're going to talk about ways to prevent that. Irritability, fatigue, weakness, nausea, headache, muscle cramping is a huge one. How many of you guys had muscle cramping while you're playing? I've been there. And that can be due to some electrolyte imbalance too that we'll talk about. Dizziness or lightheadedness, and dark colored urine. So I'm going to talk about factors and how to monitor your hydration status too. Prehydration. 50 to 75% of adolescent athletes are already dehydrated before beginning sports practice and competition. They're already dehydrated. So you need to remember to drink fluids throughout the day. I did get a chance to talk with two athletes, one on the girls team and one on the boys team, and I'm going to pick on them just a little bit. I talked to Michael Graw and Lauren Milner. And the reason why I picked those two people was because I've been watching you guys play since you were little. I mean, I've been watching you play. And Lauren and the honey badger over here, I mean, they don't tire out. They do not tire out. So I wanted to see what their food log was because they must be doing something right, right? I mean, they got to be doing something right, you know. And so one of the things that Lauren did, and she's not here, but you know, I noticed in her food journal is that she hydrated all throughout the day. Water, 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 water. I mean, that girl's hydrated. So I mean, her performance is spot on, usually all the time. I mean, she's got skill, but, you know, I think hydration was her biggest asset. So remember to drink fluids throughout the day. Hydrate 2 to 3 hours before exercise with 16 ounces, 2 cups of water. So given that, you know when Coach George and Coach Iman are going to have practice. So you need to, you know, get your little phone, you got all these alarms and beepers, and, you know, have it go off 2 to 3 hours before practice or a game. Drink yourself 16 ounces of water, okay? That's a recommendation. I think that'll help, and it'll get you in that 2 hours. You can go to the bathroom. We know you're hydrated. That's a good thing. 20 minutes before your exercise, drink a cup of water, okay? 8 ounces is a cup, and just remember that when you're on the sidelines too, like 1 gulp, you know how you go over there and you go gulp, or whatever, is an ounce, is about an ounce. So that's some ways to do it. 2 of the things that you'll hear about with Gatorade, and we'll go talk about supplements in a second, are electrolytes. And 2 of the most important electrolytes are sodium and potassium. I'm not going to go too detailed on what they do, but they have a complementary function. They maintain fluid balance, distributing your healthy amount of water inside and outside the cells. So you got to make sure, especially in hot weather, I mean when it's hot, you're sweating, you're losing sodium and potassium at a faster rate. And I know when I go running, if I'm running in the heat, I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys, if I'm going on a longer run, if you lick your lips, it's all salty. Have you guys ever experienced that? You're losing sodium, okay? So you need to know that when you feel that, you need to be replacing some of your electrolytes. Okay. Athletes are encouraged to drink 8 to 12 ounces every 15 to 20 minutes. And I know some of you guys play a lot longer than others, but I think probably every 20 minutes the coach is looking to sub. But, you know, definitely during training, make sure that you're drinking 8 to 12 ounces. You're getting that fluid in during your training. For a 2-hour practice, that would be about 48 ounces of fluid. This is really important, and we're going to go back to it, but more than 60 minutes of sports activity may require sports drinks containing 6 to 8 carbohydrate with sodium and potassium to replace. And we'll talk all about that, like what to have like at halftime if you need supplements, if you need something other than just water. But if you're running more than 60 minutes, 60 or 90 minutes, it's important to have some sort of electrolytes and carbohydrates to help you through the game. Okay? And then avoid high sugar beverages like juice and pop. Those high sugar beverages, they cause GI distress. That's not the kind of carbohydrate you want to take in during a game. And I'll touch on that more. So in your sports bag, have 3 16-ounce water bottles and a 16-ounce Gatorade with you. And if you don't like Gatorade, again, I'm going to talk about some other things that you can do instead of the Gatorade to get your carbohydrates and your electrolytes in using whole foods. Because I know, like I said, I love to run. And during my long runs, when I run, I can't use Gatorade when I'm running. I don't mind using it after I run, but during the run it makes me sick. But for some people, does anyone use Gatorade during games? No? Okay, some of you guys do. And some of you don't use. I see you shaking your head because what? Does it bother your stomach?
Yeah, I just drink water.
Yeah, it makes me want to vomit. But I can do it after. So you can use it. You can use Gatorade for different purposes. How much fluid do you need a day? This is the range that they recommend, and obviously it's quite a sporadic range here. So you can't. The smaller range is probably more for people who are smaller, and the bigger range is for the people who are bigger. But if you want to use your pen and calculate this can give you a rough estimate of how many ounces of fluid you should have a day. Fluid would include non-caffeinated beverages, but the thing is that we need to stop with the juice boxes. Orange juice and 100% juices are okay, and we'll talk about how much you should have of that a day. But things that, like, if you guys are drinking a bunch of Capri Suns every day and pop, those are the things that you don't really want to count as fluid. You want to try to stick to the water. If you don't like water, they have flavored water you can drink. We're talking about milk and that kind of thing too. So this is just an estimate of how much you should drink in a day. And go ahead and you can do it later if you want to determine how much you should have. But you'll be able to tell by your body and the things that I'm going to teach you how to monitor as to whether or not you're getting enough fluid. Remember, timing and monitoring is key. Pre-exercise, 2 to 3 cups 2 hours before. During, 8 ounces or 4 to 6 gulps every 15 to 20 minutes. Post-exercise, 2 to 3 cups for every pound lost. So, the best way to tell if you are hydrated or not is to look at your urine. Okay? You need to be constantly looking after you go to the bathroom at the color of your urine. If it's pale yellow, like lemonade, you're fairly hydrated. So you want to go in between almost clear to pale yellow. And then if you're having darker yellow urine, like apple juice looking like it means you're dehydrated. Another way that you can tell if you have enough fluid in your body is, and this probably is not very practical, but if you weigh yourself, you could weigh yourself before a game. Work out, and then before you hydrate again, weigh yourself again, and for every pound lost, you drink 16 ounces of fluid. Okay, so if you did that for the first couple of, if you did that for a couple weeks, you might get an idea of how much fluid that you need to replace after every training and every game. So that would be a good way to tell if you're getting enough fluid or not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so now we're going to talk about calories. Everyone asks, how many calories should I have, right? Does anyone know how many calories they need in a day?
2,000.
Oh, Max. Yeah? Maybe. What is a calorie? A calorie is a unit of energy. Calories are essential for human health. The key is taking in the right amount. And again, we've got someone like Max over here, and then we have someone like Luke, and then we've got Joe back, right? Everyone comes in different shapes and sizes. Everyone needs a different amount of calories. And really the best way to, and it depends on age, size, and activity level. The The most accurate way to determine how much calories you need is actually going to a hospital and getting on one of those machines that measure your carbon dioxide, and it costs a lot of money. So I'm going to show you a formula that is the most accurate way to determine your caloric level, and still then, you don't know if that's for sure is. So what it is if you gain weight, you're eating too much. If you lose weight, you're not eating enough. But that's why when you're going to start tracking your food log, you're going to get into a rhythm, and you're going to start to see how many calories basically you need in a day. And obviously during training, you're going to need a lot more. Empty calories describe foods high in energy but low in nutritional content, and we'll talk about that later. And we talked about that. Overall health, physical activity, demand, sex, weight, height, and shape. And this is the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation, and we're not going to calculate it, but it is in your packet for you to do at home if you want. If you want to write on here weight in kilograms, to find your weight in kilograms, you just take how many pounds you weigh divided by 2.2. So write that down in case you guys want to figure this out on your own. If anyone feels, you don't have to do it now, but when you get home. And to find your height in centimeters, you would take your height in inches, which if you were 5'6", you'd be 66 inches, times 2.54. So you could figure out your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, which is how many calories you would need a day doing absolutely nothing. Okay, and obviously you guys do a lot, so I'll tell you how you could tell how many total you need, but this is the most accurate equation that they use out there for determining caloric needs. Okay? To find your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditure, you multiply that equation by one of these activity factors, which obviously maybe off-season you'd be 1.375, okay? And then on very active you'd be times 1.7525. So your caloric level is going to change on and off-season probably. And actually it's probably within a couple hundred calories of the app that I gave you. Like if you just put in your height or weight, it'd be fun for you guys to compare how many calories they are comparable to. So. Okay, we're going to talk about carbs. Carbs are your fuel, okay? Does anyone, girls, do you guys do high protein diets to stay fit? I mean, you guys afraid of carbs, or do you eat a lot of carbs, or you don't care? Okay. Carbohydrates are necessary for peak athletic performance. This is your fuel, okay? This is what you guys are going to be eating more of than anything. Carbohydrates are a quick energy source. A healthy adult can store up to 500 grams of carbohydrate, like 2,000 calories, which is translated into enough energy to run 20 miles. But you store your carbohydrates in your body. You store it in your muscles, in your liver, in your bloodstream. So if you don't have enough carbs, your muscles have to rely on fat, which is an inefficient fuel source, and then extreme fatigue sets in. So when you're starting to feel extreme fatigue, it means you need carbs. I know when Ray and I do our marathon, our half marathons, I mean we're running, you guys are running like 7 miles, but at the like 5 mile mark, I'm needing carbs. I mean, I got to bring carbs with me while I'm running. Ray needs to bring carbs with him. 5 to 6 miles, I'm done. I've used all my carbs that I've stored up, and I need some carbs. And I'm going to show you how to do that at halftime. If you're running that, if you're playing the whole game, you're going to need carbs. How to maximize your carb stores. High carbohydrate foods throughout the day. Carbohydrate-rich foods and beverages during exercise for quick energy. And then for recovery, and we'll talk about that, a high carbohydrate, moderate protein meal and snack after exercise is how you do. And then how much do you need? The athlete's diet should consist of 55 to 65% of carbohydrate. So once you find out what your calorie level is, you're going to, let's say, 2,200 calories, this guy needs, he's going to times it by 0.60, which is 60%. He's going to need 1,320 calories from carbs, so he'll need 330 grams of carbohydrate a day. And you're probably looking at me like what does that mean, right? 330 grams of carbohydrate, what does that even mean? Well, what is a carbohydrate? It's So here, these are your carbohydrates. There's probably more, I just couldn't fit them on the slide. But pasta, like if you're eating a cup of pasta, cooked pasta, that's about 15 grams of carbohydrate. And these are all like, these serving sizes are like 15 grams. 2/3 cup of rice, or 1/3 cup of rice is actually, I think I was looking at a chipotle, which is 2/3. So that's two servings of carbohydrates, which would be 30 grams of carbohydrate. A slice of bread is 15 grams of carbohydrate. 3/4 cups of cereal is 15 grams of carbohydrate. And if you look here, I don't know, how many of you guys read food labels? You guys read food labels? And this is something, I mean, when you're, I would suggest that you guys start going to the store with your parents. Start going to the store with your parents, start looking around, and not just so that you can sneak Ho-Hos into the cart. That's what Nana does. So I'll be like, but, you know, start going around to, you know, the fruit and vegetable aisle, and look at all the fruit and vegetables. And you'll probably be surprised at how many things there are that you haven't even tried yet. So look at the different kinds of pastas and meats, and you'd be surprised that, you know, talk to your parents. You know, I want to try this. You know, look at food labels. And on here, you'll see the calories, and then it'll say the serving size. So this is some Cheerios, and a serving size is 3/4 cup, and 110 calories, and 23 grams of carbohydrate for a serving. So, you know, look at the food labels. Okay, so this is a little bit more than the 15 gram, but this is, you know, you would know this is how many carbohydrates you have. Beans are a good source of carbohydrate and a good source of protein. So do we have any vegetarians in here? Oh, good, because I didn't want to talk about that. But that's okay if you are, that's just a whole other talk. But beans are a good source of protein and a good source of carbohydrates. Corn is considered a carbohydrate and a vitamin, and a vegetable, as well as potatoes is listed in the vegetable group. Those two are mostly, like you would use those as a carbohydrate. But the reason why they're in the vegetable, like in the food guide pyramid, I don't know if you guys learned that in health, is because they actually carry a lot of vitamins and minerals. So you get both of that. Muffins and bagels, you know, half a slice or a small muffin. And vegetables carry a small source of carbohydrates. They're about 5 grams per serving. So it's not one of your major sources, but it definitely has some carbohydrates.